Welcome to Outside of the Classroom. Education is important, but not that bullshit, abstract, and theoretical education. You want useful, relevant, and actionable lessons that will help you succeed in life. So that's what we do. It's your boy Pham, your host, and now let's hack your education together. Welcome to Outside of the Classroom. Today we have Thomas Frank, founder of CollegeInfoGeek. Thomas, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Thomas, I don't think you're aware, but a lot of my audience are fans of yours originally.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I posted a Facebook status about like what questions I should ask you, and I got some pretty good engagement. Not just on Facebook, but on Twitter and like some of my personal friends as well. So I'm really excited.
Well, it's always nice to have help writing those questions.
And, and before we start, I just wanted to give a public thank you and appreciation again for those tuning in. Thomas and I had originally recorded a podcast episode a few weeks ago, but due to some technical issues, the file was lost, which was every podcaster's nightmare. So luckily, Thomas understood and agreed to come on again, which just shows the type of character Thomas has, and I wanted to publicly acknowledge you for that before we begin. So thanks, Thomas.
Well, yeah, thank you, man. It's no problem. I mean, hey, it happens, and I have the same nightmares that you have as a podcaster. So if I can make the nightmare not come true so much, then it's my privilege to do that.
Thank you, man. And you host two podcasts. What are those two podcast names?
Yeah, so my podcast is called the CollegeInfoGeek podcast. It's part of my whole CollegeInfoGeek, I guess, media empire, if you want to call it that. And then I also have a podcast called Listen Money Matters, which my friend Andrew, he's kind of like the main driving force behind that whole brand. We have a big team, and he and I co-host that show.
Well, so sweet. Well, for those after listening to this, they can definitely check out both of those podcasts. But Thomas, today I want to dive into habits, because I know you're very big on habits. You also made a video with How to Adult based on habits. Is that right?
I wrote that one. Yeah. So that was kind of my first experience working with How to Adult. I was a fan of them for a while, and then I remember Mike, one of the creators of that channel, tweeted that he wanted some like fan tips on building habits, and I'm like, dude, this is what I do all day. I read about like habits all the time. I would love to write this video for you, and he let me. So yeah, we wrote this script together. He ended up like reworking it into like a Breaking Bad kind of thing, like Breaking Bad habits.
It's
nice. Part of the reason I love that channel. It's like he's not afraid to be a little corny, and yeah, it kind of went from there. So I've written about 5 or 6 scripts for them so far.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I everyone knows that we should develop good habits, but before I just want to take a step back and just ask you, like, what is a habit, like definition wise, and why should we actually care about like building good habits?
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to remember some like the science here that I've read on this stuff, because there's a little part of the brain, right? The basal ganglia. This is a small part of your brain. It's essentially part of your lizard brain. If you can think of the brain as a 3-layered organ, with like the very base layer being the layer that evolved, when life was a very primitive, we call it the lizard brain, where, base emotions, instincts, things are kind of bound up. On top of that, you have like the animal layer, some people call it. And then you have the frontal lobes and like all the more highly evolved functions, the, emotions, empathy, ethics, that kind of stuff. The human brain, right? Well, the basal ganglia is down in that lizard brain, right? And that kind of controls a lot of your automatic behaviors, your habits. And if I remember the statistic correctly, about 40% of all of your behavior is habit driven. Even if you don't realize it, even if you believe that you are consciously making choices to take actions during the day, most of them are going to be habit driven in some way. So if you can change your habits and make them controlled and make them sync up more with your goals, then you're going to get to your goals. 40% more of your effort is being directed towards progress on your goals rather than other things.
Interesting. So I'm just curious because, like, for example, if you're growing up and you've had these habits for so long, whether it's like biting your nails or like eating breakfast at a certain time or waking up at a certain time, like I'm sure like if you've grown up with such like all these habits for like 10 years, 20 years, I'm just curious to see like how you would change that behavior, but we'll dive into that more. First, I want to just dive into how do you start developing a habit? So you say I bite my nails a lot. What can we do now to move forward and develop a new habit, whether it's breaking that habit or a new habit of just not biting your nails?
Well, it was interesting. I read a book called The Power of Habit. I probably read it like last year, I think, and I made a video on it this week for my channel with some lessons that I
Sweet.
learned from it. But one of the things that I learned is that habits don't really go away. You don't necessarily break them and delete them from your brain. You just replace them with different
Mm.
behaviors. So, to sum it up, a habit is defined as a three-step process. There's a cue that triggers a routine. So you have a cue, whatever it may be. Could be a time of the day, could be a location, you seeing something, could be seeing somebody else or having the action of somebody else make you want to do something. And
Hmm.
then that drives the routine, which propels you forward to attain a reward.
Got it.
So, in the case of biting your nails, I mean, you could define the reward as having shorter nails, but you could obviously get the reward by clipping your nails. I think most people bite their nails because it's like a nervous tick. It kind of like gives them something to do to alleviate boredom or anxiousness. So if you can find something else to replace that routine, or if you can build a consequence that's going to make you sort of override the desire to get that reward, then you can start to break that habit. So
Mm.
actually, it's a good example you brought up because I bit my nails my entire life, and
Well, I knew
I
that, Thomas.
quit
That's why I brought it
overnight.
up.
I quit overnight probably 8 or 9 months ago because my girlfriend was just hounding me about it, like it's so dirty, you're gonna get diseases, and I'm like a very data-driven person, like so she had to send me a bunch of scientific studies about nail biting to convince me. But once she did, I put on my habit RPG, don't bite my nails, and overnight stopped. Like I have not bitten the nail off since then.
Whoa,
And
whoa. You overnight?
overnight, yeah. And I mean, I
Wow.
feel like it was one of those things where I've had some experience building and breaking habits in the past, and there are other habits that I'm really bad at breaking. So don't be super impressed. I just like this is a fluke, I guess. But yeah, I haven't bitten my nails since I decided to quit. I
Hmm.
just make sure to go clip them when it is time to clip them, and that reduces the temptation, I think. So one of the things is keeping them short. I can't bite my nails.
Nice.
But the other thing is just I don't know, like I know that there is now a consequence. I have now set into my mind that I don't want to do it, and I'm going to track when I do it, and I don't want to mar my record. So there's that motivation to have this streak of good behavior that overrides whatever anxiousness or boredom I'm feeling.
I see.
And now
So
when I'm
there's
bored,
a
I just like drum on the table, right? Boom, there you go.
interesting. So you mentioned a cue, then you mentioned a reward,
Hmm.
and then did you say the last part yet, or did I miss that?
Yeah, it's, oh, the routine is the second part. So
Oh,
whatever the
cue
behavior,
routine.
the cue triggers the routine. So
Got it.
put your fingers to your mouth, bite the nail. That gets the reward. Interestingly enough, when you're first building this habit, your brain gets a dopamine spike because there's this like reward loop in the brain. It gives you some, I think they're like endorphins that are basically pleasurable endorphins to get. You get this spike when you get the reward. But as you start to go through this routine more and more often and the habit becomes more ingrained, what
Mm.
happens is you start to get that spike of brain activity right after the cue. There is the anticipation where you get that dopamine spike to get the reward. It's like a craving. So
Interesting.
as habits become more ingrained, there is this craving to get that reward. You're not really, your brain isn't waiting to actually get the reward to give you that reward signal.
Hmm.
So you have to be very deliberate about changing the routine to give yourself a similar reward through more healthy behavior or avoiding the cue altogether.
Well, interesting. Okay, so I have, for example, I'm trying to develop a habit where I run every single morning,
Okay.
and sometimes I don't want to run every single morning. I don't get excited, and after I finish, I guess I feel better, but it's not like beforehand I wanted that reward.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts about
So
that?
maybe you can tie another reward into that behavior. So one thing that I do is I like to go for a walk every morning.
Okay.
But I'm usually not exactly motivated to go for a walk in particular. I know it's good for me. I know it's good to get outside. But what I really want to do in the morning is listen to podcasts. So going for a
Mm.
walk gives me half an hour to listen to a podcast, and I can get through. So I'm like,
Oh.
I'm really interested in this podcast called Cortex right now. It's all about like basically just two nerdy guys talking about the weird ways they work and the tech gear they have.
Mhm.
But I'm just like, yeah, I can wake up and immediately listen to that while I'm on my walk, and then make breakfast, listen to it a little bit more. So there's my reward. And also like if you're using a habit tracking tool like Habit RPG or Lyft or I guess it's Coach Me now, you you also have that motivation to keep your streak going. If there's any consequences bound up in it, those are commitment devices, I call them, and
Mhm.
you want to keep those happy and not punishing
Yeah.
you. So
Interesting. So you have to intertwine a different reward.
yeah,
Okay. Tell tell
carrots and
tell us more
sticks,
about.
right? The reward is avoiding the consequence or getting the carrot, right?
Interesting. Okay. So I gotta. Okay, that's my next step then. But you mentioned Habit RPG and
Yeah.
other coaching apps. Like, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so Habit RPG actually they changed their name to Habitica, which
What
I
is it
mean
called?
as Habitica. So I mean it used
Habitica.
to be called Habit RPG, which as a person who has grown up playing Final Fantasy and Pokemon and everything, that it makes sense to me. But I think they made a smart decision changing it to appeal to a wider audience who might not know what RPG means. Maybe like the image of a rocket launcher comes to mind for most people when they think RPG, not a role-playing game. But it's basically, it is a role playing game for building habits. You can set up daily habits that you have to complete. When you check them off, you will get experience and gold. Experience helps you level up. You can pick a class like a mage or a warrior or ninja or whatever, and you can get gear and gold and find things. So all these techniques that game designers have learned over the years keep people addicted to and playing RPG games. They built this into the process of building habits. And they also have another feature on the site where you can set up habits you don't want to do. So like bite your nails or smoke or drink or whatever, and then you could
Mhm.
punish yourself and say, okay, I did that, and it takes health away. So it's
Wow.
just kind of like this way to gamify your habits. And my favorite feature of it is the fact that you can party up with other people and you can go on quests together and you fight bosses. And when you're doing this, if you fail to do your habits, you're going to damage them in addition to you. It's like the boss
Oh.
damages them. So that now there's this social pressure. Now you're just like, you know, for me, one of the most visceral examples was I put on my dailies that I needed to write 500 words a day because I
Mhm.
was trying to write a book and I was having so much trouble getting it finished. So I put it on there, and I remember a lot of nights where it was like 11:20 p.m. I really wanted to go to bed, but I had not yet written my 500 words, and we were on a quest. And I'm like, well, I can make all my teammates mad at me, and one of them
Mhm.
being my roommate who will yell at me in person, or I can just vomit out 500 words and be, not get yelled at. So I did that every night. And lo and behold, not every word I wrote was great. A lot of times I would like sit up writing like I don't want to be writing. Just
Mhm.
like writing
Yeah.
absolute crap. But through, daily 500 words every single day, I came up with a book and released that book in the beginning of January. And it has been one of the things that's made my business, completely get a lot bigger and a lot better. So yeah,
Dude,
love
that's
Habitica.
awesome.
Coach Me is a similar thing. It doesn't really have the whole like video game aspects to it. It used to be called Lift. It was a very simple habit tracker, and they have focused more on building out coaching programs. So people on the platform can be coaches. Um, say you're really good at training people to run every day. You could be like a running coach, and then like there's a goal plan on the platform called like
Oh.
run a 5K in 30 days or something like that. And then like maybe people could sign up for that, and you could be the encouraging coach that says like, "Hey, did you run today?" People can mark their progress and go through a step by step plan.
Dude, I have to check these out because my habit app is only by myself,
Which one are you
and
using?
it's called Habitless.
Okay, yeah, I haven't that one.
And have you seen it before?
Uh-uh.
Oh, well, essentially, you write down all your habits, and then every single day you like press it every time you do it.
Okay.
And if you miss a day, then the little circle turns from red to green, and
Oh,
it
okay.
turns from a positive number to a negative number. So you just broke the green.
Okay, so
Streak.
it's just kind of embodying the concept of streaks, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and but I like yours better because like it's social pressure. Like your roommate will like um
Yeah.
hunt you down if you don't write, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean I love, the concept of streaks, not wanting to break your record. That's very powerful, and that's built right into Habitica as well. But I love the addition of the social aspects and the extra rewards if you're into the game aspects of it too.
Hmm. And you mentioned about smoking. Is that why like people switch from smoking to like eating sunflower seeds
Yeah.
or something similar like that?
Mhm.
They just replace it with
Or
something else.
exercise. A lot of people actually switch from smoking to exercise because what they found is they don't necessarily smoke because they want to inhale smoke in their lungs, right? They smoke because they want to reduce stress or just get a feeling of relaxation or just like a boost of energy or something. And going for a run can give some of those same rewards. Not all of them, but some of
Got
them.
it.
And people have found that if you can give some of the same rewards, you might be able to replace that routine with healthier
Got it.
behavior.
But with smoking, like, is it possible to not replace it technically, but just stop smoking? And
Yeah, it just
that's
takes a
it?
lot of willpower. Your
I see.
willpower is limited, and everyone has a different amount of willpower. You can build commitment devices. You can change your environment to foster, supporting structures for your willpower, but it is limited. Every time you make a
Mhm.
decision that is against what your initial impulse to do is, you're basically like sapping your daily allotment of willpower. Now, they've done
Yeah.
studies where people who they came into a room and they were given a test, by these researchers, and like half the group was given very polite behavior, um, given very clear instructions, just treated really well, and the other half
Mhm.
were treated, very brusquely. Like the researchers were very terse with them, very just like, take this test and like say all these rules, and those people were under a lot of stress and they did worse. So your happiness matters, and then they've done other studies where like these kids, I think it's like one kid is given a cookie, and then one kid is like given a radish or something like that, and the kid that like has to eat the radish then does bad on a test because like you're just it's called decision fatigue, I believe.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you are gonna try to go cold turkey, it can be done, but you are going against your monkey brain and sapping your willpower.
Mhm.
So the more you can
Interesting.
do to give yourself the same or similar rewards through better routines, the more you can bypass that limited willpower.
Got
Because you
it.
got to use that willpower on other things during the day, right? I mean, you got to go to work, you got to just choose where to go for lunch, and all these things.
Mhm.
Decisions pile up.
Yeah, more important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But take your habit for example. When you want to write 500 words a day, like what happens if you do it every day for like a month, and then like 1 week you totally slack off, and isn't it hard to like pull yourself back up? Like I guess
Yeah.
after breaking a habit that you've already been trying to develop, how would you pull yourself back up? Because I find that struggle sometimes with running.
Yeah. So what I've found with habits is, I can get in a very good routine of doing a lot of different habits. And then if something comes up like travel or just like work gets crazy, I can slack off on them, and it's very hard to just jump right back into the same routine. So there's something that the author Nick Winter calls success spirals, where small achievements and wins kind of like boost your momentum and your motivation to do more things. But then if you
Hmm.
fail, you kind of like fall back down to the bottom. So you need to start small once again. Good example is with Habitica. I used to have like 14 or 15 habits on there, and I was consistently doing them every day. But I kind of got out of it, and now with YouTube, it's like taking up so much of my time. I'm exhausted from making all these videos, and I have not been doing 14 or 15 habits a day. So I deleted them all, and I went back down to like six.
Wow.
I've just been trying to tell myself or show to myself that okay, I can do these six habits every day along with my work. And once I have sufficiently convinced myself that that's doable, I'll add one more and build back
Mhm.
up to where I was.
Wow, that's really cool. 14 is a lot by itself already. It seems
Yeah,
like.
14 was pretty crazy.
Hmm.
But I mean, I
Well,
wasn't doing a video every single week at that time.
mhm. Well, speaking of crazy, I was reading your blog and I was reading your blog a long time ago, and you actually helped me find how important it is to have a morning routine.
Mm.
And your morning routine is like packed with so many different things. Could you just walk us through like the first 60 minutes of your day?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was alluding to. My morning routine used to have way more in it. So I'll give you
Wow, even
the
more.
gist of what it was at
Mhm.
its peak. So I'd wake up at 5:55 a.m. The way I do this is I use a tool called Buffer, which is a social media scheduler. And I put a tweet in there, schedule it for 6:10 a.m. It said, "Hey, I am still asleep because I'm lazy. So if you would like $5 from me, tweet me and I will send you $5." Limit of five so I don't break the bank. But yeah, so now there's this motivation to not lose $25. So I got to get up. I don't have Buffer on my phone, so I got to go to my computer, turn it on, cancel that tweet, or actually just schedule it to the next
Wow.
day. So that, without fail, gets me out of bed every time that I use it. Um,
Losing money.
yeah, you don't want to lose money, and you don't want to. That's like social shame too, right? You don't want to
Mhm.
show people that you're lazy. So you get up and do.
Interesting.
So then I would, take my vitamins, drink a big glass of water first thing, and then I did like 3 minutes of very concentrated meditation. And the way that I meditate is it's very short, 3 minutes. I don't do it for for Zen or for anything like that. I do it simply for building concentration. So in my head, I will try to count in Japanese to 10 and try to limit only to 10 in within 3 minutes. So like very slow breath in, ichi, out. And then very slow breath in, ni, as slow as I can. And I usually
Mhm.
keep it under 10. So that's like just building concentration. If I let my mind wander to something else, I notice that I'm wandering and bring it right back. And that helps with work. So
Mhm.
I did a 7 minute workout, which is an iPhone app you can get. It just guides you through about 12 different exercises, 30 seconds each, and then went for my walk. That's where I listen to my podcasts. So I mean, you can replace that with a run if you want to. Come
Mhm.
back, eat breakfast. I would read for 20 minutes and take notes on whatever I read, and then I plan my day out, my whiteboard, and then I get into work. I think
Nice.
that was everything. Like I said,
That's
I've
very
pared
cool.
down. I'm not doing the 7 minute workout right now. So
Mhm.
right now I'm just waking up, take my vitamins, drink my water. I check my calendar every day, and then go for a walk, make breakfast, plan the day
Mhm.
out, read, and then get to work.
Well, I just want to show like for the people tuning in like how simple of a routine that is, but I feel like if you've done it so many times, you do it habitually, so you don't think about like what to do next, like when you wake up. Is that right?
I have to think about it because my horrible, terrible monkey brain wants to like look at email and analytics the first thing in the morning. So it
Ah.
takes, I have to like force myself to not do that stuff. No,
Mhm.
you got to go for a walk. You got to make your breakfast first. No looking at email, you know? So,
Mhm.
and there's also like the fact that I try to put videos out every Thursday, which, it's Friday as we record this, and I'm probably going to be putting my video out today instead of yesterday. There's
Mhm.
always like these deadlines. So I always have this temptation to just like, oh, well, today is, too busy to do my routine. So I'll just start editing right away. And what I found is that usually doesn't really work. You just
Mhm.
get distracted. So I'm much better off if I do my routine and I sit down and I actually use like Pomodoros and schedule my workout.
Awesome. And do you have any like night routines, or is that mostly the morning? Is what you start off
I
as?
don't have a whole ton for night. I mean, I wish I was going to bed earlier. Honestly, like usually at night, I'll either be watching a TV show with my girlfriend or playing my Wii or uh, sometimes working, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Still definitely not perfect, but yeah, just kind of brush teeth, take a shower, go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Well, awesome. Well, this has been really good. So we have the cue, we have the routine, we have the reward. To make a new habit, you have to replace your bad ones. Habit RPG or Streak or any other app. Morning routines. I felt like we covered so much. Is there anything that I might have missed? I don't usually don't ask guests this, but is there anything I might have missed about habit? Because I really want the listeners who are tuning in, like, to have good habits and develop their own. So Thomas, did we get the whole surface, or am I missing something that I didn't ask you, or anything you wanted to say before we part
Yeah,
ways?
so I do want to add one last little tidbit here. Another thing I read about in The Power of Habit was about people who had knee replacement surgeries. And if you don't know anything about knee replacement surgery, the surgery by itself, it helps, but then to gain full use of the knee again, you have to go through a lot of rehabilitation, physical therapy and walking and using the knee, but it's
Hmm.
very painful to do. It's not a fun process. So they found that a lot of patients were just not, they didn't have the willpower to walk and to use their knee, and they would never fully recover. So they had some patients simply plan out in advance what they were going to do to rehabilitate their knee and to do exercise even when it was hurting. So one guy would say, "Okay, my wife gets home to the bus stop from work every day at 4:30, so I'm going to walk there and I'm going to meet her from my house. It's going to hurt, but I'm going to do it because I'm going to go meet my wife. I've committed to that." So
Mm.
essentially, the finding is that people who plan in advance for what to do at inflection points, pain points, the points at which your willpower is likely to give out, are much more successful in keeping with their goals during those pain points. So,
Got it.
if, say, procrastination is one of your biggest problems, instead of saying, "Today I will not procrastinate. Today is a new day, turning over a new leaf." Ha ha ha. No, realize, yes, I'm going to procrastinate. What do I usually do when I procrastinate? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a scheduled time to study. I'm going to study for 40 minutes or whatever, and then I'm going to give myself a break because I know that I will procrastinate eventually. So I'm going to kind of like sequester that procrastination time into a little 10-minute break time and then get back into work.
Wow.
Plan that in advance. Yeah.
Very cool. It's kind of like how you plan your buffer tweet in the morning when you want to wake up early.
Yeah, and that's also just like an additional little hack of essentially forcing me to do it. It's the next
Mhm.
best thing to having like army guy just like kick my door down. Get up, soldier. Like I don't have that, so I have the threat of a really embarrassing and expensive tweet going out.
$25 a day.
Yeah, that would be pretty.
Um,
I mean, $25 is not gonna break the bank, but it's like you just wasted that on sleeping for an extra 10 minutes. How do you feel?
mhm. You can't justify that, but cool.
No, yeah.
Well, awesome. I would highly recommend anyone tuning in to check out Thomas and his amazing work, not just with habits, but with college, but with building a personal brand, personal website, and all the other topics that he covers. So, Thomas, where can we all find you?
Yeah, collegeinfogeek.com is where everything that I make lives pretty much.
Hmm.
And then Tom Frankly on Twitter.
Tom Frankly on Twitter. So, Thomas, this has been so great. Thank you so much again. And did you have any like last words you want to leave with the listener who's tuning in, who wants to do good habits and are excited to like break their old ones?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can predict this, but start small.
Start
You
small.
gotta start small. My crazy routine was not crazy at the beginning. It was like two things on the list. So
Hmm.
just convince yourself that, you can handle the small things and then add them gradually.
Think long picture.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Well, Thomas, thanks so much, man. I really, really appreciate this. And I'm sure the listeners really appreciate it as well. So I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yeah, no problem, man.
All right.